Okay, so I guess we should get started, yeah? Okay, so hi everybody, I'm Dave Touretzky. This session is about writing your first AI program in 10 minutes. I'm going to be assisted by Yang Cheng from Ready AI. There's Yang waving hello. She's going to be sharing the slides, and Brian Cox is our moderator today. So if you're still getting used to Hopin, you should be seeing 6 different panels, and one of them has the slides. And so if you double click on that panel, it'll get large, and then it'll be easier for you to read the slides. And you can always double click on it again to make it small. So what you need to do for this session is, first of all, you have to be running Google Chrome, because the Calypso software only runs in Chrome. So it's okay if you're using something else to run the Hopin application and to participate in this summit, but off to the side, if you're not already using Chrome, you need to fire up Chrome. If you don't have Chrome on your machine, you can go to this download link here, chrome.google.com, and you can download Chrome. It's free from Google, and install that on your machine. So everybody should be running Chrome now. And the next thing you need to do is you need to visit this website. It's calypso-robotics.com. That's where you'll find the Calypso software we're going to be using today in our session. You can, if you like, make a free account, but you don't have to. So the first time you go to calypso-robotics.com, you'll see down in the bottom right corner of the window, it'll say guest mode. And guest mode can do everything that regular mode can do, except you won't be able to save your program because we don't know where to put it. So if you want to make an account, you can do that. It will ask for your name and a password, and it'll email you a registration link. It should only take a minute, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to, and you don't have to wait for that registration process. If your mail is slow or you're too busy to sort through your inbox, you can always complete the registration later. All right, so hopefully everybody's got their Chrome up. You're at calypso-robotics.com. And just a few brief words about Calypso. If you could go to the next slide, Yang. Thanks. So where Calypso came from is the Cosmo robot is a really interesting robot. It was made by a company called Anki. It was one of the few robots you could buy that could see. So it had real computer vision and it had real AI. And so I built a programming framework called Calypso for Cosmo to put real artificial intelligence capabilities into the hands of little kids. So 8 years old and up, we're able to do computer vision and speech recognition and landmark-based navigation, all kinds of things that require intelligent AI algorithms. And the software is still available. It runs on Windows or Mac OS. The company that made Cosmo, Anki, they went bankrupt in 2018, but their assets have been purchased by another company, Digital Dream Labs. They're bringing Cosmo back, so you'll be able to buy Cosmo robots again in the fall. But the next thing we did, if you go to the next slide, was we made a version of Calypso that runs in the cloud. And that's what we're going to be using today. So Cloud Calypso will work in any Chrome browser. So it's not just Windows and Mac. It'll work on a Chromebook even. It's free for personal use. And this is the website that you're visiting right now, calypso-robotics.com. That's where you access Cloud Calypso. And we use a simulated robot in a simulated world. But the good news is that any program written for Cloud Calypso can be downloaded and run on a real Cosmo robot. So this is not fake robotics. This is real robotics. subject to all the limitations of real robots, but also it's so much more engaging when you can see your program run on a real robot. So let's get started. What you should do now, we're going to enter our very first Calypso program. And Yang, if you can go to the next slide, we're going to put this up for reference, but what you want to do is go to your screen that's got the Calypso tab. And so I'm sharing my screen with my Calypso tab. I hope that doesn't confuse you, but you should go to your screen with your Calypso tab, and you're going to do what I do. So I'm going to talk you through this. And feel free, Yang is monitoring the chat. So if people have questions or they get stuck on something, you can ask in the chat. Okay, so here's my Calypso window, and yours should look like this. And you should notice in the top left corner of the screen, there's keyboard help. So it's telling you what the various keys do. And what we're going to do is we're going to program our simulated robot to tell us a joke. And it's going to use speech recognition to hear what we say. And it's going to use speech generation to generate speech. So these are both AI algorithms. We're going to start by, with the mouse, we're going to click on this orange plus sign here where the pencil is right now. And that's going to bring up what I call a pedal menu. So these are menus of, in this case, these are conditions for our Calypso rules. So we're going to choose here. And in the dialog box, we're going to write, tell me a joke. And then when I finish typing in the dialog box, I'm going to press OK. All right, so now we have the beginnings of a rule. So all the rules in Calypso are when-do rules. They have a when part and a do part. So the when part says, when here, tell me a joke. We're going to go over here to the do part and click on this plus sign and come down to the bottom and click on say. And we're going to type in the text box, knock, knock. And then click OK again. Okay, so that might have been a little fast for people. So I'm going to give you a minute to catch up if people need a little time to get used to the interface. If you type something by accident, like let's say that you accidentally choose feel instead of here, you can just put the cursor back on the tile and click on it again, and you can replace it with something else. You can use escape to close a menu, and you can use the delete key to delete a tile. So if you put the pencil on that feel tile there that you don't want, and you hit delete, then it goes away. Okay, so hopefully people are keeping up, and you have a program now that says, when here, tell me a joke, do, say, knock, knock. All right, so if anybody has any problems or needs help, you can type something in the chat. I see Stephen's asking for help catching up. Maybe someone can message him. Okay, yeah, Yang's taking care of it. Jared's asking about a text transcript. Sharon says, here is not one of my options. Are you clicking on the orange plus sign or the pink plus sign? You need to click on the orange plus sign. Can the robot translate Spanish? Not yet. That would be a cool thing to add. Yeah, you need, remember that every rule has both a when side and a do side, right? So the when side has an orange plus sign, and the do side has a peach colored plus sign. And so here, that goes on the when side of the rule, and say, that's only available on the do side of the rule. Okay, everybody good? All right, so there's more to this program than just this first rule, but let's see if we can make the first part work. So hopefully everybody's got a rule that looks like this. And now we want to run our program. And so in order to do that, you can see in the button help in the top left corner of the screen, you can see that the backspace key runs the program. That's true on a Mac. Sorry, it's true on a Windows box. If you're on a Mac, you'd use the delete key. So I'm going to try it myself, and then you can try it on your computer. So let me do it. I'm going to hit the backspace key, and then the robot's going to be listening to me, so I'm going to speak to it, and you'll see speech recognition. Tell me a joke.
Knock, knock.
Then I just hit the delete key again to exit the execution mode and go back into the rule editor. So go ahead and try that. Hit the delete key on your Mac or the backspace key on your Windows box, and then speak to it, and it should answer you. It worked for young you, good. Hopefully it will work for everybody. Okay, Jared needs to delete something. So you can just, whatever you want to delete, you just click on that tile with your mouse, and that'll put the pencil on the tile. And then you just hit the delete key. And that'll delete the tile. You can also use Control X to delete a tile. And yes, the Y key lets you edit the tile. So notice there's button help in the top left. There's button help. So if you don't know what button to use, you can always look in the top left of the screen, and it'll tell you all the different options. Okay, so let's go back and write the rest of this program real quick. So if you're still running the program, you have to hit the backspace or the delete key to get back to the rule editor. And I'm just going to come down to the second rule here. Just click on it, and I'm going to say, when here, who's there? I'm going to say R2. And when I hear R2 who, this is a really lame joke. That's deliberate, and you'll see why later on. Okay, R2D2. That's a robot joke. All right, so here's my little joke program. And you can see that when we run this program, when a rule fires, it lights up. So I'm going to run this program. And of course, now that I'm talking, it's listening to me. And it's transcribing my speech, but none of those rules on the left-hand side are lighting up because nothing I say matches what the rules are looking for. But now I'm going to go through the dialogue, and you'll be able to see the rules light up when the rule matches. Tell me a joke.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
R2.
R2 who?
R2D2. That's a robot joke.
Okay, so, yeah, sorry, function delete on the Mac if you need to delete a tile. Thank you, Yang. Okay, so everybody hopefully has told their first lame joke. And you know, in doing this, you've built on 50 some years of AI research. Speech recognition is more than 50 years old. People have been working for half a decade to try and make speech recognition work. And they finally got speech recognition to work reliably about 10 years ago. Due largely to the adoption of deep neural network techniques. And now you're able to use it in your programs and your students are able to use it. Okay, so let's move on to something a little more demanding. So right now, the program as we've written it only matches this exact phrase. You have to say exactly, tell me a joke. If you say any more or any less than that, it won't match and the robot will just sit there like a dummy. So Yang, if you can go to the next slide, we're going to introduce pattern matching in our program. And so it uses something called regular expression syntax to allow for pattern matching. And that's a way of expressing alternatives in the pattern matching language. So we're going to show you how to do that. If you go into the rule editor and you want to put your cursor, put the pencil on the first here. So you can just click on it with the mouse and that'll put the pencil on that here tile. You can also use the arrow keys to move the pencil around. And you can also use an Xbox game controller. You can use the left stick on a game controller. But we're just going to use the mouse right now. Okay, so with the pencil on that first here, if you press the Y button, you can see in the button help, it says Y, edit tile parameter. You see that on the left side in the top left corner, Y, edit tile parameter. So if you press Y, then it lets you edit this pattern that the here condition is looking for. And so what we're going to do is we're going to type in a pattern that will let us match a lot of different sentences. So we'll say hi, or hey, or hello, or nothing. So that's a vertical bar that I'm typing there. Vertical bar is, it's on my keyboard, it's just above the enter key. It's the same key that has the backslash on it. So shift backslash is a vertical bar. So we can match hi or hey or hello or nothing. That last vertical bar with nothing after it says that you can leave out that word if you want. And then we can have either Cosmo or nothing. And then we can say, can you or will you or nothing. And then we can say, please or not say, please. Tell me a joke. Now this is so long that we actually have a little scroll bar here so you can see the whole thing. Okay, so you want to make sure that you get the syntax correct. We're using vertical bars to separate alternatives, and all those alternatives are grouped together with parentheses. We've got spaces in between our words making up our phrase. It should look like this. So you don't have to do the whole thing. If typing this is too demanding, you can just do a little piece of it if you want. But the point is that this is a regular expression that will now do pattern matching against what we say. So let's try some variations on this. I'm going to run the program and I'm going to try some variations. Hey, Cosmo, tell me a joke.
Knock, knock.
Cosmo, can you please tell me a joke?
Knock, knock.
Will you tell me a joke?
Knock, knock.
Will you tell me a different joke? See, that didn't match. Cosmo, tell me a joke.
Knock, knock.
Please tell me a joke.
Knock, knock.
Okay, so you can go ahead and try that if you haven't already. Kathleen says, how do I execute on the Mac? Just press the delete key. Not function delete. To execute on the Mac, it's the delete key. And again, you can look in the button help in the top left corner of the screen, and it knows that you're on a Mac, and it'll tell you. It should give you Mac button help. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? Everybody doing okay? Good. Okay, so this is a really simple program. Is there an undo option? No, well, sorry, we don't have undo. We will someday, but not yet. Maxine asks, how do I get say? Say is on the do side of the rule. So here is on the when side. Notice that every rule has 2 plus signs. There's an orange plus side for the when side, and there's a peach colored plus side for the do side. Oh, delete key on the top. So if you have a Mac with 2 delete keys, you want the top delete key, the one that's on the row with all the numbers on it. Okay, if you told it no to allow the microphone, you can undo that by, if you look in the location bar, which is the top right corner of the location bar at the top of the browser, there's a little microphone icon. Let me see if I can show it to you. So if you look, can you see my mouse pointer? If you look at the location bar, right, the location bar says calypsorobotics.com and then a long string. And then on the far right-hand side, there's a little camera icon, right? If you hover your mouse over it, mine says this page is accessing your microphone, and yours says that access is blocked to the microphone. What you can do is you can click on that icon, and that'll bring up a little dialogue, and you can change the setting to say that you need to allow access, and then you need to reload the page, which means you're going to lose your little program, but that's what you need to do.
Dave, we can't see anything above your Calypso screen.
Oh,
you can go to Chrome settings and go to your microphone controls settings.
Well, I think it's easier to do it the other way. If you're running Calypso, right in that Calypso tab, if you go to the Calypso tab, you'll see in the location bar the little microphone icon. Okay, Uru says, I cannot find Y. By Y, we mean the Y key, the letter Y on your keyboard. You don't have to put double quotes around the phrases. No, when you type in the dialog box, you just type the phrase directly. Kathleen is asking about pre-written program samples. Yes, we have a whole Calypso curriculum available. Plus videos, plus Ready AI has their Calypso available, Calypso curriculum. There's lots of materials available. I want to move on to show you some more complex things. So clicking enter is not running the program. Now, to run the program, you have to hit the backspace key on Windows or the delete key on the Mac. Most of the Calypso curriculum is free. All my stuff is free. Some of Ready AI stuff is free. I think there's some stuff they may charge for, but almost everything is free.
Yeah, we actually have a new curriculum that is designed for the web version Cloud Calypso. It's $99 for the curriculum.
Okay, Katie asked, can you explain what makes this AI? Well, speech recognition is AI. You're actually talking to the computer, and the computer is recognizing what you're saying. And that's the result of 50 plus years of AI research to make that work. The same thing with speech generation. So when we tell Cosmo to say something and that gets turned into understandable English speech, there's a bunch of AI behind that to make that work. Katie also asks, are there specific AI standards this aligns to? Funny you should ask. I am the founder and chair of the AI for K-12 initiative, which is developing national guidelines for teaching AI in K-12. And what we're doing right now aligns with Big Idea 1, which is about perception, and Big Idea 4, which is about natural interaction. So yeah, Katie, we're using AI, but you can use AI. You can use these AI tools to create intelligent programs, and those, you could think of those programs as like AI agents. Now, right now we have an AI agent that tells one really stupid joke, right? So it's not that impressive yet, but as you'll see that we can do lots more interesting things, and so. You are actually building AI applications. You're not coding AI algorithms from scratch. That would be a different kind of course. But it's a way to get familiar with the limitations of AI. For example, look what happens when I do this. Oh, sorry, I have to switch tabs. So I'm in my Calypso tab now. Which is which? They're building their house down there. So did you notice that it got those right? It got which is which. It got that correct. And when I said they're building their house down there, the there, there's 3 different spellings of there, and it got everyone correct. That's AI, right? That's a deep knowledge of English. And you can do this kinds of experiments right in the browser, as you just saw. Laura asks if there's a way for students, I got to scroll up here, to program from the back end to add features in a more advanced course. Well, Calypso that you're using now is built on top of something in Python called Cosmo Tools. And Cosmo Tools is open source. And so you can build on that. And in fact, we use Cosmo Tools in my undergraduate computer science cognitive robotics course. Calypso itself is not open source, but Cosmo Tools is. Okay, so let's move on, and we're going to do something, a more sophisticated version of the joke program that will show you some really interesting features. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get out of novice mode. So right now you're in novice mode. If you look in the bottom right corner of the screen, you'll see these little green letters that say novice mode. And that's there mostly to protect the adults. So especially when we use the game controller, which has lots of buttons on it, the kids were fine, but I found the adults would often get confused and press the wrong button and then just make a mess of things. So to keep the adults from getting lost, we added novice mode, where a lot of the gamepad buttons and keyboard options are disabled, so people can't get themselves into trouble. But for what we're going to do next, we have to come out of novice mode. So Yang actually has a slide. If you can go to the next slide, it shows you how to do that. And I'm just going to show you on my screen here. So if you look at my Calypso screen, up in the top right corner is a home menu. If you click on home, then there's something called settings. Now, if you're in guest mode, a lot of the stuff will be grayed out and you'll see a login button there, but don't click on that right now. We just want to go to settings. So if you go to home settings, and it says novice mode in green there, and if we click on it, it'll switch to normal mode. And that's what we want. We want to be in normal mode. So once you've done that, you can just click anywhere in empty space and that'll dismiss the menu. Okay, so once we've done that, then now you'll see that the help got more complicated on the left-hand side. There are now more things you can do that were disabled before, right? So don't do any of this stuff because I don't want you to get lost. But I'll talk you through what we need to do. Okay, so is everybody good? Oh, April says you can click on the green words novice mode. I didn't even know that. I forgot about that. All right, so we're going to write a more complicated program. This is going to take you into an understanding of state machines, which is one of the most fundamental ideas in computer science. Nobody who teaches computer science should be unfamiliar with state machines. So if you're unfamiliar, we're going to cure you of that problem right now. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to delete the second and third rule. So I'm just going to put my pencil on the when, and then I can type, I can hit the delete key, or I can use Control X to delete that rule. So I'm just going to press, it's function delete on the Mac, it's delete on a Windows box. I'm going to delete the second rule, I'm going to delete the third rule. Oops, got to put the pencil on there, right? Okay, so my first rule here, I'm going to change my first rule to say, we're going to keep the here part the same. So when here, Cosmo, tell me a joke, but we're going to change the do. So I'm going to put the pencil on say, and then I'm going to left click on it one more time. And I'm going to change this to switch to page. So it's going to say switch to page 2. Okay, and we have this on the slides as well. So Yang, if you can switch to the next slide. So this slide, if you want to make the slides be readable, you can just double click on the slides to make it readable. And it's going to show you the first 2 pages of our program. Our program is going to have 4 pages. So on the first page of the program, we just have a single rule. When here, Cosmo, tell me a joke, do switch to page 2. All right, so now you may be wondering, well, I didn't even know there was more than one page. Well, at the top of the screen here, you see the number 1. That means we're on page 1. And there's a variety of ways to move to page 2. One way to do it is you could just click on that little arrow to the right of the 1, and that'll take you to page 2. Page 2 is pink. Page 1 is blue, right? So notice the page number here is pink in the tile, right? That's because page 2 is pink. So another way to switch pages is you can use the page down key on a Windows keyboard. Page up and page down will move between pages. And on the Mac, I forget what it is. It's function something or other, but the keyboard help will tell you. So you can just look in the top left corner of the screen and it'll tell you how to move pages. But if you don't want to remember keyboard shortcuts, just click on this little arrow here and we're going to go to page 2. Okay, so on page 2, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do say, the when part's going to be empty. We're going to go to the do part and we're going to have it say, knock, knock. And then we're going to add another tile. We're going to add a tile called once. Okay, so if we didn't have the once there, the way Calypso works is that rules can run over and over again. So there's no explicit while loop in Calypso. Every page is an implicit while loop. So when a rule has an empty when part, then an empty when is always true. So if we just ran this program, it would just say knock knock over and over and again, and that would be annoying. But with the once tile here, we tell it that we only want to say it once and no more than once. Okay, so are people able to do that? Hopefully you are. You're able to go between page 1 and page 2. And I'm going to just show you a quick aside here. You don't have to do this, but just watch me do it. So here's a trick. If you put the pencil on the page number and then you press the backspace key on Windows or the big delete key on your Mac keyboard, it tells Calypso to run from that page. So we're going to skip page 1 and directly run page 2. Here we go.
Knock, knock.
Okay, so you see in the bottom right corner, it says started on page 2. It's just telling you that we started on page 2. And you see that the rule ran, you heard the knock, knock. And this little green check mark here says that the once is satisfied. And so we're not going to run this rule again. If we stop the program and I delete the once and I come back up here, put the pencil on the page number and run it again, then this is what we get.
Knock, knock. Knock, knock. Knock, knock. Knock, knock. Knock, knock.
Okay, that's not what we want. So we're going to put this once tile back here. And now we have 2 more rules that go on this page. So the second rule is going to say, when here, who's there? To switch to page 3. Okay, so what we're doing is we're taking our joke and we're breaking it up into pieces, and we are distributing those pieces across different pages of the program. And one reason to do that is that it forces the user to go through the dialogue. So in our original program, if we had run the program and just said, who's there, the robot would have said R2, right? So it would have skipped the knock knock part entirely because all the rules were on page 1, right? And so any rule that matches, that rule could run. And so you could do the joke in reverse order even, and it would still work. And we don't want that. So we want to force the joke to be played out in the correct order. And that's one of the reasons why we're moving it across pages like this. But there's another thing that we're going to be able to do by breaking it across pages. And that is, if the user doesn't say knock knock, or if they cough or something, or say some other random thing, and don't correct their error, and say knock knock, we want to prompt them again. So that's what this last rule is going to do. We're going to say here, when timer 10 seconds, do switch to page 2. Okay, so you might be wondering, I'm already on page 2. Why do I want to go back to page 2? The reason is that when you do that, it resets the once. Okay, so I hope I haven't lost anybody. If people have any questions, you can ask now. If you're good, let's try running just this little piece of the program and see what happens. So I'm going to, if the pencil's not on the page number, if the pencil's anywhere else except being on the page number, then when we run the program, it starts on page 1. Tell me a joke.
Knock, knock.
I want pizza for lunch.
Knock, knock.
I don't feel like listening to your jokes.
Knock, knock.
Who's there? Okay, so we transition to page 3, but we don't have anything on page 3 yet. So let's finish up our joke program real quick. We're going to go to page 3. And when here, on page 3, the first thing we do is we say R2 once. And when we hear R2 who, we go to page 4. Oops, I typed the wrong thing. I'm just going to click over that. And Yang, if you can switch to the next slide has the code for pages 3 and 4. And we're going to do the same timer trick here. So one timer, 10 seconds. We're going to go back to page 3. Okay, so this is going to work the same way as page 2 does. It's going to say R2. Wait for us to say R2 who. But if we don't say that after 10 seconds, it's going to prompt us with R2 again. And then the last page here, we're going to say the punchline. So say R2D2. That's a robot joke. And then we're going to add another tile you haven't seen before, an and then tile. So and then says that I have another action I want to take, but I don't want to take that action until after the say has finished speaking. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take this last rule here and we're going to indent it. So first of all, what the rule says, it's going to do something called win, which ends the program. So to do win, you go game and then win. Okay, so it says win here, but you got to win from the game submenu. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go to game and then choose win. Okay, but there's one more trick to this, and that is we don't want the win, which ends the program, we don't want that to run until the say has finished speaking. And so we're going to indent this rule. And the way to indent a rule is you put the pencil on the when, and then you click and drag, and that slides it over. And when it's indented like that, that means it's now a child rule. So the first rule is the parent rule, the second is the child, and we're indenting the child under the parent. Okay, so Timothy asked, is this available in text-based as well? No, the only interface is this graphical interface. And that's because there's a lot of graphical stuff going again. Steve asked how to get to game again. So on the do side, when you click on the plus sign on the do side, it pops up a menu, and game is one of the menu entries. I'll do it again in my Calypso. So if I'm going to just delete this tile. So I go to the do, click on the plus sign, and then here's game. It's at 9 o'clock on the menu. Game is a sub menu. So I click on game, then I get options here, and win is the one I want to choose. So I wanted to say game win. Okay, Ashley wants me to show how to indent the rule again. So to indent a rule, you can put the pencil on the when, and then you just click it to the left to outdent it, or click and drag to the right to indent it. All right, so let's just try this, and we'll see how it goes. So you're going to see the program switch pages. If you look on the left-hand side in execution mode, the left-hand side shows you what page you're currently on, and you'll watch the program switch pages as we speak. Cosmo, tell me a joke.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
R2.
R2 who?
R2D2. That's a robot joke.
Okay. Is there a not statement? Yes, there is a not statement. That's a little bit complicated, and so we're not going to get into it right now, but I can talk to you about it later. Young asked, can we make it respond to something unexpected? Yes. But we're not going to do that right now because there's more stuff I want to show you. And Sarah asked about what the and then tile is there for. So let me just briefly explain that. So what the and then tile does, see, Calypso allows actions to run in parallel. So if we didn't have the and then tile, it would simultaneously speak this punchline and also do the win thing. And we don't want that. We want it to say the punchline, and only afterwards do we want it to do the win. So the and then tells it, don't do these actions in parallel. Wait for the say to complete, and then do any child actions that are indented underneath. Okay, so April wants to know why this is a state machine. So that's a great question. And I'm going to show you why it's a state machine. We're going to switch to another view of the program. To do that, if you look on the left corner here, it says Control Up arrow will show you the state machine view. So I'm going to hold down the Control key and press the up arrow on my keyboard. And on the Mac, I think it might be Function Up arrow, but do whatever the keyboard help says. But we want to switch to the state machine view. Okay, so what is a state machine? A state machine is a collection of states which are drawn as nodes in a graph, and there are transitions from one node to the next. So the states describe actions, and the transitions have conditions attached to them. And so our program that we wrote, every page in the program is a state in our state machine. And you can see here that in state one, when we hear something, that causes us to switch to state two. State two is page two. And in page two, if we hear something else, so this would be the knock knock, then we would go to page three. But page two also has a timer transition that goes back to itself, right? And the same thing with page three. And then if page three hears R2 who, then it goes to page four. Okay, so our program has the structure of a state machine. And state machines are used everywhere in computer science. They're used in operating systems, they're used in game design, they're used in network protocols. I can't think of a single area of computer science that doesn't use state machines in some way. But in most programming languages, they don't provide direct support for state machines. You have to code it yourself using something like a switch statement or a bunch of if-thens. You have to build your own state machine. But in Calypso, we provide state machine support. So every page is a state. Switch to page handles the transitions between states. And we even draw the state machine for you. So another cool thing is you can watch the state machine transitions while you're running the program. So let me just check if people have any questions. No? Okay, so I'm going to run the program. You can, again, the button help tells you how to move. So Control Up arrow will take you back to the map editor view. Control Down arrow will go back to the rule editor view. We want to go back to the rule editor view. So here's the rule editor. I'm going to run this program, and then I'm going to, okay, so while I'm running the program, I can type Control Up arrow and go to the state machine view. So now you see this little dashed line around page one. It tells you that I'm on page one. I'm in state one. Now watch what happens when I ask for a joke. Cosmo, tell me a joke.
Knock, knock.
You see, we switched to page two.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
R2.
Now you see we're on page three. R2 who?
R2.
R2 who? R2 who?
R2.
R2 who? R2 who? R2 who?
R2D2. That's a robot joke.
Okay, so again, this is something unique to state machine to Calypso, that you can actually watch the state transitions. April asks, "Is there a state machine when you don't have pages?" A state machine with one page that would have one state. It'd only be on page one. Now you can build a state machine without using pages. Like the way you would do this in something like Python would be you'd have a variable that would keep track of what state you're in, and then to change states you would just change the variable, and then you'd have if statements that to see if I'm on state one, I'm going to do these actions. If I'm in state two, I'm going to do those actions. So you can build a state machine without having pages, but it's just a lot easier to do it with pages. Now, I wanted to show you another feature of state machines. Yang, if you can go to the next slide. There's a state machine editor. So in Calypso, if we're in the rule editor here, right, we're not running the program, we're in the rule editor, and we do Control up arrow to go to the state machine view, we can actually edit this. So we can click on these nodes and we can move them. And we can change the layout of our state machine. We can also move the links, so we can change the way the links are drawn. So when you have a more complicated program, the initial layout that it comes up with for the state machine may not be a layout that you think is the best one. So you can go back in and edit the layout and change it to be how you like. And then, of course, when you run the program, you'll see that it's using the new layout that you created. Kathleen asked, when you change your state machine, does it change the rule editor too? Yes, so it's possible to renumber states, and that renumbering will apply to the rule editor as well. Okay, so let's move on. We only have about 20 minutes left, so that's actually pretty good. If Yang, you can move to the next page, next slide.
Yeah, I think we're on the path planning slide.
Oh yeah, thanks. Okay, so we're going to do something. Different now. We're going to leave this program there, but we're going to, on page one, we're going to add a rule that causes the robot to move. So if we go back to page one, we can leave the joke program there. It's not hurting anything. But we're going to add a new rule. It says when C cube 1, make sure you choose cube 1, not the generic cube with the question mark, but cube 1. It's the cube with the little paper clip on it. When C cube 1 do move toward it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to explore a part of the robot known as a path planner. So this is another AI algorithm. It's an algorithm for finding a path to an object while avoiding obstacles. So I'm going to let everybody go ahead and get that. You need to do this on page one. Okay, it's not going to work if you put it on a different page. So you need this to be on page one. When C cube 1 do move toward it. All right, so we're not going to speak during this, so we won't be doing the joke telling part. We're just going to get the robot to move toward the cube. So if you've got this rule in there, we can hit the backspace key, delete on the Mac, and the robot will move toward the cube. And the little blue dots, that's the result of the path planner. Well, where this gets interesting is that you can click on the cube and move it, and the robot will go to the new location. But what if we hide this cube behind another cube? Then he has to go around it. We can make obstacles, and he will replan. As he tries to get to the cube. So go ahead and try that. You can just click on the cube to drag it, and you can watch the robot dynamically plan his path to try and get to the cube. Yeah, if you set up a condition where it can't get to the cube, he complains about it. He says can't reach cube 1. Okay, so have people managed to do that? Hopefully, if you have any problems, you can type in the chat. Let us know. Oh yeah, I should make the slides. Let me make the slides available. Just give me 1 second. I will do that. And I'll paste the link in the chat. Okay, here in the chat, I've pasted the link to the slides. So if you want to download a copy of the slides, you can. Okay, so let us do just a little bit more before we run out of time. I want to show you the map layout editor. So we're going to, if you go back into if you're running your program, you want to stop your program, and you'll see here the control down arrow gives you the map editor view. So we're going to make our own little map right now. So we type control down arrow, and then I'm going to take this wall here and drag it onto the canvas. And this might be a little bit much for you. So if you don't want to try dealing with this, you can just watch me do it, and you can do it yourself later. We're going to build a little structure here. So here I've built a little structure that's got a doorway in it. And I'm going to put cube 1 in the doorway here. And I'm going to throw a couple other cubes onto the map. Okay, so now when I run this, he's planning a path through the doorway. And if we grab the cube and move it out of the doorway, and then we block the doorway, then he gets upset. If we move this out of the way, then he will plan a path to the cube. And if we put this back in the room, he will figure out how to get around the obstacles and go through the doorway into the room. Okay, so let me just go through the rest of the slides, and then we can take questions. So yeah, so here's the next slide here. I wanted to just emphasize that everything that you do in Cloud Calypso, you can do on a real robot. So that little building that we built in the map, here's an example of you can build a real little building. This one has 2 doorways, and those black and white images that you see, those are markers that the robot uses to recognize where the walls are and where the doorway is. And so you can build this little shack here, and if you have a real robot, he can actually drive through the doorway. So use computer vision to see where the doorways are, and you can program him to drive through the doorways. Kathlena says this reminds her of Lego robots. Well, not really. Lego robots are blind. So is Vex. So is Sphero. Dash and Dot, blind and blind. None of these robots can see. So they have no AI. We're doing real computer vision here, right? Real speech recognition. So all of these things that we're doing, the path planner, these are all using real AI algorithms. Okay, if we switch to the next slide. Right, so there is free curriculum. You can go to the calypso.software website, click on the curriculum link in the nav bar, or here's a direct link that will take you to the curriculum. Okay, and oh, thanks, Yang pasted it into the chat. If we go to the next slide. Okay, so there's a chance for you to win a free Cosmo robot. Yang, you want to tell people about that?
Sure. Thanks, Dave. So at ReadyEye, we're running a funniest robot challenge, and the top prize is an AI in a box. The box includes materials to deploy your code on a real Cosmo, and that includes 1 Cosmo robot and a tablet and a game controller, so you can run the code you did today on a real robot. And the challenge is just to code a joke, which you did earlier today. You can just customize it to make your personal joke. Entries are due by July 1st, and we'll be picking the funniest joke and sending maybe a Cosmo robot your way. For the instructions, there's a link there, and I'll also post the link in the chat right now.
And your students can enter too. So this isn't limited to teachers. Anyone, anywhere in the world is free to enter this competition.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have some time for questions. So, okay, Layla asks, how can we purchase Cosmo robots? So right now, the only way to get them is you can find them on eBay. You can actually get them from, I think Ready AI has an inventory and we'll sell them to you. But they're coming back into production. So the company that made them, Anki, they went bankrupt in 2018, but their assets were purchased by a Pittsburgh startup called Digital Dream Labs. And they're also the company that makes Puzzlets, which if you're familiar with Puzzlets for real little kids, that was their first product. They're going to charge the same as Anki did for the Cosmo. So it's going to be, the retail price was $179 for the Cosmo, and they're going to charge the same thing. So this is incredibly cheap. A Cosmo robot is $179. You need something to run the Cosmo app. We recommend using a Kindle Fire, which is only $49 at Amazon. But if you have other tablets or you have an iPad laying around, you can even use your phone to run the Cosmo app. So the Cosmo app will run on an iPad. Yes, Calypso will not. You can run Cloud Calypso on an iPad if you have Chrome, but to use Calypso for Cosmo on a real robot, that requires either Mac OS or Windows. It can't run on an iPad, and that's because it depends on a bunch of advanced libraries that are not available for Chromebooks or iPads. They're only available on Mac and Windows. But you don't have to. I mean, you can buy Cosmo robots. People have been using them with Calypso for several years now, and it's really fun for the kids. But you could also just use Cloud Calypso and maybe have one Cosmo robot, and as a reward for a student, if they do a really nice job, you can let them run it on the real robot. So LaShonda is asking, how would you download your program? So if you log in, so if you make an account for Cloud Calypso, so you're able to log in and save files, there's an option called export that will export your Calypso program into your downloads folder. And then you just take that file and you can import that into Calypso for Cosmo to run on a real robot. Anyone else have any questions? Great, I'm glad you enjoyed it. There's a lot more that you can do with this. Ready AI runs something called the YC, the World Artificial Intelligence Competition for Youth. So we had kids come in. This was done like in a summer camp format. So we had kids come in for 4 days. We taught them Calypso with a hands-on tutorial using the Cosmo robot. And they built projects where they wanted to show how AI can make your life better. So they actually built a little set, kind of like the Mart that you saw on the previous slide, but their sets were even more elaborate. And then on the 5th day, we had a competition where they showed off their creations. And there was judging, there were prizes, they got certificates. We did this in both 2018 and 2019. We were going to do it in 2020, but the virus caused that event to be delayed. But you can actually see videos. There's these adorable videos of some of these kids. We had kids as young as 8 doing this, and we had kids as old as high school. So they were in different age divisions, so they didn't compete with each other. But there are some great videos of kids explaining how their AI program worked, how Cosmo was going to help take care of sick people or help clean up the environment. So you can do a lot to help kids think about AI by letting them do this kind of project-based learning. So thank you so much for coming. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll hang around for a little longer to answer questions if people have any. You're also welcome to email me or Yang at Ready AI. and we're looking for people to work with. If you want to get more teacher training, if you want help with curriculum, we're at your disposal. So thanks again for coming, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Yang. Those were excellent. This is fantastic. I look forward to AI becoming more prevalent in Georgia schools. Hopefully you can help us out with that. Everybody remember that David has a panel. When is the panel, David?
It's
Wednesday?
tomorrow at 2:45. And the panel is about why should AI be included in Georgia's CS courses?
Thank you tremendously, Yang. You did a great job. I think everybody needs to have some assistance in these types of presentations. Without it, I think it's a very lonely and challenging scenario. So you and David make a great team. And remember, you can reach out to the people, to both David and Yang, on the People tab, if you want to shoot them a quick message or ask them more questions. I think next we have another break. Is that true?
Yeah, there's a 15-minute break.
Excellent. All right, 15-minute break, and then we're back on the stage to meet with Teresa, the new Georgia CSTA president, and hear from Todd Harris, who's going to convince us why esports is so important and how to get that into our school system. So some good conversations.
Awesome.
Great.
I agree, Marcus. You can also use the time to network with each other. Like I said, if there's somebody that mentioned something that was exciting that you want to follow up on, you can reach out to them on the People's poll, on the People tab. Or you can play more with your robot, which is what I'm doing.
Hi, Marcus. So you're already on the AI for K-12 list. That's great. You're welcome to email me if you want to discuss things further about bringing AI to your high school. That would be great. Jared, I don't know about the recordings. Maybe Brian knows about that. I don't know if all windows will be equally sized, probably, but we have the slides now available. And so I think they can post a link to the slides along with the video so people can download the slides and just view the slides themselves in a separate browser.
Sounds like a good idea. I hadn't thought about the video size of the recording. I wonder do they record what my screen is showing or what your screen is showing?
No idea.
All right, I'm going to jump back onto the stage. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
David.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Peace.